Hello there. Today I'm taking the opportunity to try some of Kumeu River's single vineyard Chardonnays. So we're in New Zealand's North Island here, about 25 kilometres north of Auckland, in the town of Kumeu, which is sort of becoming a suburb of Auckland. This is the Coddington Vineyard Chardonnay, and this is the 2022 vintage of that. Kumeu River built its reputation on producing Burgundian-style Chardonnays to rival some of the best in the world. And for a long time, the wine that they produced was Kumeu River Chardonnay. After a while, they started making a wine called Matty's Vineyard Chardonnay from a vineyard, a particularly old vineyard just across the road from the winery. But as time's gone by, they've identified other vineyards that stood out for them in terms of quality of the sort of wines that they produced. And the vineyard that belonged at that stage to the Coddington family was one of those. Now, Coddington Vineyard is a few kilometres north of Kumeu in a place called Waimauku. And generally speaking, Coddington is the most forward of the single vineyard wines. So of the single vineyard wines, you have Matty's Vineyard, Coddington and Hunting Hill. They now also have a single vineyard wine from Hawke's Bay called the Rays Road Chardonnay. And in the Auckland area, there are these three vineyards. In terms of winemaking, throughout Kumeu River, it's very similar. These are wines that are hand-picked, they're whole bunch pressed, they ferment with relatively turbid juice, quite cloudy juice, in barrel with the indigenous yeasts that have come into the winery from the vineyards. So they may be on the fruit, or they may already be in the winery already fermenting away. The wines are fermented in French oak barriques, 228 litre Burgundy barriques, of which for Coddington a reasonable proportion, I think at least 30%, but I'm not sure on that figure, will be new. The wine will stay with its fine lees, so it'll be racked off its heavy lees, stay with its fine lees in the barrel for 11 months and is blended and bottled just before the following vintage. So let's see what we make of the wine, shall we? And this is a pale lemon yellow, almost with sort of greenish hints. Swelling it, it's not particularly clinging to the glass. I mean, reasonably viscous, but it's a dry wine. It's 13.5% alcohol, so that's not particularly going to be that heavyweight. Let's see what we make of the aromas, shall we? The aromas here are more fruit driven than, say, the Matty's from the same vintage was. It's more sort of limey. There's some slightly toasty notes over the lime and lemon notes, and there's a sort of a richer stone fruit note behind, and that's overwhelming the leesy notes that are kind of in there, but they're behind the fruit. They're not standing out as they had in the Matty's Vineyard that I tried. So let's have a taste. On the front of the mouth, that's got a peachiness that is, it's not overblown, it's not ripe peach, but it's a very definite stone fruit note with toasty overtones, and that's toast perhaps coming from barrel, perhaps coming as notes of fermentation aroma from the yeast there, a slightly sort of minerally note of sort of whetstone, gunpowder, that sort of thing there. There is a creaminess on the mid palate, but it's much more textural than in terms of taste. There's a richness and a roundness across the palate. In terms of weight, medium, maybe you might say medium to full-bodied, but it's more to the medium end of the spectrum. The acidity is fresh, and at the end of the wine, the acidity emerges from the rich fruit and just keeps it lively. So there are sort of limey notes behind the sort of the riper stone fruit notes there. The acidity is making this very fresh, very appealing now. I'm salivating very liberally, and the flavours are long, and they're continuing to open up. I'm getting more of that sort of creamy note actually starting to come through, some of the toastier notes emerging as well. As I say, Coddington has a reputation for being more forward than, say, the Matties or the Hunting Hill. And certainly I'm seeing that now. It's more sort of rounded fruit to the fore. I mean, I think 2022 was quite a generous vintage in style for these wines. It's certainly showing that. Again, I think this is a wine that would quite happily age for 4 or 5 years, probably for longer than that if you had the patience to keep it. But it's a very appealing wine now, so I'm not sure that you'd need to. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, please like it and share it. Do think about signing up and subscribing to our YouTube channel. That would be fantastic. Do leave any comments you have on this wine, others you've tried from this producer or this region. We'd love to hear what you think about the wines, about the videos. But most importantly, I hope you'll manage to find some time to join us again for another tasting very soon. Hope to see you then. Bye now.